Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for the last session of today's event dedicated to sports. So today I'm joined by 4 experts of the sports media industry, and soon a fifth should arrive. So guys, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and your company and the responsibilities within your company, and then we can dive into the topics right away. So let's start with you, Guy.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to be with you all from wintry Sydney in Australia. Guy Port from WSC Sports, and I manage our business across APAC. WSC, for those that might not have heard of us before, we provide an AI technology platform that allows owners of sports rights, like people on this panel, to automate the creation and the distribution of video highlights.
Thanks, Guy. And welcome, Zulkifli. So Harold, can you introduce yourself and your company, Wild Mocha?
Yes, hi. This is Harold Chan, based in Singapore. I help manage the Wild Mocha business for Asia Pacific. Wild Mocha, we consider ourselves a cloud-based digital media factory for content creation and distribution to all digital platforms. What we look to do to help broadcasters, sports federations, sports broadcasters, news organizations is to really enable their digital transformation and workflows.
Thanks. Rubin?
Yeah, hi, I'm Rubin Zhong. I'm actually the Chief Content Strategy Officer for Sport TV here in Southeast Asia. We are the newest pan-regional sports broadcaster in the region, currently now in 8 territories. And we carry content, which is the ongoing Wimbledon, the Open Championships, US Open, tennis, and as well as badminton, World Federation events, and World Table Tennis events. Yeah, so very much happy to be on this panel.
Thanks. Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick Wilkinson. I'm joining you today from London. My role is Managing Director of 11 Sports' business in Southeast Asia. And despite what Ruben says, I think we're the newest broadcaster in Southeast Asia. We are, unlike Ruben, we are OTT only. We have launched services across 7 markets in Southeast Asia. And our focus is very much on local and locally relevant content.
Thank you. And finally, Zulkifli, can you introduce yourself and your company? We cannot hear you. Can you try now? Well, we can still not hear you, but I can introduce yourself. So Zulkifli Mushtar, working for TV RI Nasional, so the public broadcaster in Indonesia. So guys, let's start right away with the basics. So how to build a sports portfolio. And I will start with Robin because you're the second newest, so I'm not going to start with Nick, would be too easy. So since you've launched your sports channels quite recently, since less than a year, and entered the sports market with some key assets and key properties, for example, as you said, with badminton or MotoGP. So, and obviously you had to enrich your portfolio with some other properties. So what was your strategy when buying rights and acquiring rights as a pan-regional broadcasters, as you mentioned?
Yeah, when we were given an opportunity to bid for, this portfolio of rights, it also coincided with Fox Sports Asia's decision to exit the market. All right, so quite a number of very key properties that they used to hold were out in the market. All right, including, not only just the content that we have right now, but also UFC. There was also, Roland Garros rights were also out in the market as well. Yeah, and then of course people were looking at the F1 because F1 sort of like had their own strategy and all that. So we had quite a slew of selection to actually look at. And of course, obviously in any rights tender and all that, you got to sort of like fit the criteria of the rights holder as well. And of course, fortunately, I mean, we went into for quite aggressively for some of this content, and then we managed to clinch the rights. But I think we take a step back and do how we actually sort of put together the whole rights portfolio. And one of the consideration that we have is what do the Southeast Asian sports fan actually want to watch? And you would realize that in this region, I mean, this vast region right now, the appetite for sports is really high, all right? Despite on a global scale not performing really well, I mean, not producing that many high performing sports athletes, all right? So we know that this thirst for world quality events, all right? Of course, that's, I mean, for European football, that's like number one thing that sports fans in Southeast Asia want to look at. But also, there's this appetite for tennis Grand Slams. There's this appetite for golf majors as well. Sport TV, we wanted to get the top tier stuff, all right, that was available in the market. But also at the same time, we wanted to focus very much on content that, you know, local Southeast Asian athletes actually perform well in, all right. This comes very much in the form of badminton and table tennis. So we've gone out there to sort of mix and match, all right. I mean, our content strategy sort of like mirrors a little bit of Fox Sports Asia, but then there's this other element where we went out there to get content that used to be available on the market by market operators in the region, and that's namely badminton and table tennis. So virtually, this is how we ended up with the portfolio right now. Still not the finished article. I think we are looking to add on a few more other content, but some of our criteria now would be very much looking into Olympic sports. I mean, sports that are in the Olympic program. That's one thing. And also the other consideration very much is the question that we throw out to most either federations or rights holders is how much are you willing to invest in growing your sport in Asia, particularly Southeast Asia? So these are some of the questions that we do ask, I mean, potential new content providers to sort of come back to us with. But virtually, I think that, yeah, that in a nutshell sort of like encapsulates what Sport TV is about right now. I mean, Sport TV in Southeast Asia is about right now. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And yeah, and one key element that might differentiate you from Fox as a pan-regional is also trying to localizing content, right? To not only have this pan-regional approach, but also localize content to be more relevant.
Correct.
Okay, nice. Nick, what is 11's positioning and strategy when it comes to rights acquisition, and how do you try to adapt to market by market?
So it's a good question, Guillaume, and you know, not in some ways similar to what Ruben said, in other ways not. I mean, I think Sport TV very much stepped into the shoes of Fox Sports with pan-regional linear channel broadcasters, but we 11's sort of taken a different approach, and in the sense that it wants to be an OTT player only. You know, we look at numbers, we look at the growth of markets. Predictions are by the market, for the markets that we operate in, there'll be about 53 million SVOD subs by the end of 2025, which is, you know, where we're targeting at the moment, compared to an erosion of the pay TV base. So we're trying to future-proof. We've also it's not only about content, but about relationships. And, you know, Ruben has, you know, done a great job at securing some of those rights that Fox have given up, and indeed taken away rights that traditionally have sat with MSOs. We've taken a different approach. We've secured rights that we want to work with, and our aim is to partner with those MSOs. So you see a lot of cable operators who want the content on their platform, but not on their balance sheet. And that has been our approach. In terms of the content itself, I suppose a bit like Ruben, it's content that works for an Asian audience. Obviously, there's no point in not doing that. I suppose where we differ is We haven't looked at the major European rights. You know, from my time at well, as it was ESPN, Star Sports, our view was that those are great, but can be difficult to monetize unless it's packaged. And Fox did a brilliant job of that. And I know that Ruben has got some great distribution. So you know, obviously that's going very well for him. But we've stepped away from those rights. We do have some table tennis. We have badminton out of Europe. Our sort of key property is AFC, so local Asian football, and we're pursuing other local football. We've done a deal in Thailand for the Women's League, and all of that from a numbers basis, because obviously you're a research firm. Is, you know, we look at social media trends, and we try and gauge what our interest and what our subscription numbers will be like based on number of searches for particular properties, number of people with Instagram accounts or Facebook accounts related to those properties. So we've looked at content that we want, and then we've looked to identify whether or not those programming decisions are theoretically correct, because as an OTT broadcaster, there is nowhere to hide, right? We can't bury our costs in an overall package, which is then, you know, sold as a linear sports channel. You know, we don't have that luxury. Every dollar we have needs to count. And when I go to my board for money to spend, the first question is like, what's the return? And it's a very different model for us. And it also means that we have the luxury of buying content in different content in different markets. I mean, we can buy the same content in all markets, but, you know, if we see if Ruben's got rights that we want in some of our markets, we can still buy in other markets. Whereas, you know, previously as a linear broadcaster, you couldn't. It was all or nothing, or opt-out channels. So it's very different. Not only different strategy, but different approach.
And also the fact that you focus on the OTT business is kind of help you, because like with OTT, it's quite easy to know how well a piece of content performs. And then obviously if it works, whether it works or not, you can adapt your strategy, your West strategy, right?
Well, that's right. And, you know, we've got some content that hasn't worked for us, and, you know, we won't renew it. I mean, I don't know whether or not you've had rights holders on, you know, in some of your earlier panels, but, you know, if I was them, I'd be panicked, because, you know, the you should just have this, it's great argument is disappearing. And, you know, guys like you are helping us go, yeah, it should be great, but it's not. You know, you know, a lot of rights holders say, great, we've got Amazon coming, you know, or we've got Apple, or we got whoever. But those guys, of all people, know exactly how well something performs, and, you know, it may be they may wish for the dark days of linear TV, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, for Nick touched on that, the common point, okay, between both 11 and Sport TV right now is we are both operating in a declining fees environment, all right? And when it comes to rights acquisition right now, we cannot pay more than what the subscriber / consumer is willing to pay. Okay, that's the most important thing, all right? Right now, I mean, a lot of the rights holders are now trying to get into, I mean, they have to sort of adjust their expectations of the market right now, because it's true that over the past, I would say, from period of 2005 to 2015, I think the rights fees in the region have sort of run up to an unrealistic level, especially for European football, all right? So I think a lot of adjustment for rights holders need to be done. And we're just talking about tier 1 content rights holders. I mean, for tier 2 and tier 3 is like virtually used to be getting like probably a 6-digit sum in the region, and now they're looking at 4 digits or even nothing at all. Yeah, so that's how drastic the market has become. All right, everyone has to box a little bit smarter, right? And then be a little bit more creative with their offering and all that. Yeah, so no one out there to give away, you know, easy money really right now, because it's just too difficult to earn back from the consumer. Yeah.
Yeah, it also changed the way how rights owners and rights holders are collaborating to grow the value proposition, to grow the exploitation of the rights, to grow the reach of their business.
Right.
Just before moving on, I just want to remind the audience that if you do have questions, don't hesitate to use the Q&A box, and we'll address your questions right away. Now, Guy, we talked about this also market by market approach used by 11 Sport TV. So from your side, how crucial is it for your clients, for broadcasters, to create personalized content to serve their fans?
Yeah, thanks, Guillaume. I think when you talk about content and localization, WSC is a technology company. So our angle is different from, let's say, a SPO 11 who are looking to acquire and then distribute. And I think that the magic about technology these days is allowing the media companies a new way to distribute that. You take the markets that we're talking about. You've got many markets with different languages and different interests from that one game that is going on. And previously, if you had to serve content outside of the live match, I'm talking about anything from a clip of a goal to a highlight of a play or a game, the manual production, you would do one version and distribute it in every region. And where the magic of technology comes in, it allows the partners that we work with to use AI and tech to chop that up and customize it. So we can take a game and take on board 5 different languages and create 5 different moments that are all slightly different to tailor the interests of those markets in that local language and then distribute it. I mean, you know, I think the NBA finals that we worked on over in the US in the past few weeks, we were outputting content in 20 different languages around the world to tailor that language to that player, to that market that we know that will resonate. And I think that is where there's a unique advantage to pan-regional providers. They can use tech to tailor that video and that content rather than what previously would have been a giant warehouse of editors that would have been impossible to compete with from a manual perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And then to adapt this mix of local and locally relevant content to the local languages and local audiences.
Yeah, correct. I mean, look at, great example is you take the J-League football, and they've done a great job in recent years of building up a significant fan base in Thailand. And they do that on the back of a handful of Thai stars playing in the J-League. So to be able to focus the content and the highlights that they deliver to social and digital platforms in Thailand on those players in Thai has been a huge growth advantage for them, and using technology to enable that.
Okay, thanks. Zulkifli, can we hear you now? Hi, still not. Yeah, it doesn't seem it's working right now. So yeah, Harold, now back to you, because we talked about this relationship between rights owners and broadcasters, and also the fact that during tenders, you have the rights fees, but besides that, you also have the editorial exploitation of the rights, the reach a broadcaster can provide. So, and obviously, a broadcaster has to work in close relationships now with the rights owner. So how can you help those broadcasters to grow their reach, their potential subscriber base, and to address new audiences and larger audiences? And how can Moel Mocha help them do that?
Sure. Thanks, you. I mean, there are a couple of ways. Definitely, when Ruben and Nick spoke about fighting smarter, playing boxing smarter, localizing content. It's about how creatively you can also better monetize those rights, create deeper connections with your audiences. What Wow Mocha is able to do is create deeper connections and two-way interactions with regards to the connections you have with your fans. Can you imagine that you're creating multi-language rights to be distributed across your platform? Of course, the technology is enabling you to do that. But how do you then also build deeper connections? Because as we become a more digital and connected world, well, digital, media rights is one thing, but where technology is bringing us closer and closer to the fans. Platforms are bringing us closer and closer to the fans. 5G technology is enabling all this as well. people will be sending in feeds from the games itself. Fans will be shooting something from the stands at a particular game and sending it onto social media. How do you then enable the cross interaction between these platforms to enable your fans to get the best experience possible? Sometimes when it's fantastic to be able to view a clip very quickly, to be engaging with them in their local language. But I think one of the opportunities when technology as an enabler is to bring the fans back into the broadcast as well, to really make them feel extremely connected, and to grow their participation in this engagement as well. So really, as I said, with as Guy has put it very simply, technology has enabled a lot of media rights owners and broadcasters to really box smarter and find new ways of engagement to really create a deeper connection, because it's no longer about, because as I said, rights are just getting more expensive. You can't, you'll be a never-ending cliff where you're chasing the most expensive rights. So it's really about finding new ways to grow your audience and engage with them on a deeper level as well.
Okay, yes, thank you. And so Kifli.
Yes, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, as Harold just talk about the inflation of the right and the price of the rights. Obviously, as a public broadcasters, it's hard for you to compete with other broadcasters, especially new ones, when you have new entrants on the market. That might lead to a rights inflation. So how do you position yourself, and how do you adapt to this rights inflation, and what kind of sports also do you target as a public broadcaster? Okay.
Hi. Okay. At TVRI, as a public state broadcaster right now, since many years ago, we, especially in sport, we have an obligation, of course, to give the audience, especially the Indonesian audience, as many as information as we can. In the sport category, we already managed to do it before the Sport TV taking the BW of course, Robinson. And then we got the BWF, we got the Premier League. But since last year, the price of the right itself, the price of the license itself is getting higher and higher. It's getting, if I can say, it is becoming so wild about the price itself. So since we are using the government fund, yes, we are a public state broadcaster, but we are using a government fund. There is some mechanism that we cannot go through with this kind of situation from the rights price. So right now, we are trying to do our best to get what the audience want, just like what the other speaker also did it. For example, the most popular sport in Indonesia right now is, of course, football, badminton, and also several others like volleyball. We're trying to get it, but so far they're still on negotiation. Arvin.
Okay, thanks. So right now we already halfway through our discussion, so now it's probably a good time to talk about monetization and also OTT. Since I already talked about monetization. So Nick, a few minutes ago, we talked about content localization and market by market approach, but it also applies to the offering, to the pricing also for OTT as an OTT specialist. Because here in Southeast Asia, we obviously have some very different markets in terms of OTT penetration, of average income, and very heterogeneous markets. So how do you adapt both in terms of pricing, of tiering, also in every market, in the way you try to monetize content?
So, as you identified, Guillaume, we look at it on a market-by-market basis, and we also look at it from a content offer. So, for example, our AFC rights don't extend into Indonesia, so we naturally charge less there. We benchmark against other OTT properties in the market. We benchmark against other sports offers, and look at it from that perspective. But I think also because our strategy is partnership approach. DTC, direct to consumer, is only one thing. Is only one way we look at markets. So when we enter into relationships with MSOs, typically we're discounting our price against market for them. You know, buy an 11 subscription via Singtel, and there's a Singtel subscriber, you get a special rate. So our pricing is varied by market, but even within market varies as well. We discount, so for an annual pass versus a monthly pass, which reflects the fact that churn is a massive issue for us, and we're constantly trying to deal with that. But not only churn from a content perspective, but some e-wallets you can't do repeat. You can't have subscriptions, so you can't have repetitive buys. So anyone using some e-wallets has to come back in and start all over again. Some e-wallets are capped in the amount of money you can spend with them. So again, we have to adapt our packaging there. So we might sell 1, 3, and 6 month packages, but not a 12-month package. So it's very one of the advantages of OTT is you can be very sort of market specific. We do deals with football clubs, special price if you're a fan of JDT in Malaysia. So it varies. But top line ARPU, we're pricing across all of our markets is roughly $3 per sub per month, discounted by any number of factors, including it's more expensive in Singapore but cheaper in Indonesia. So
okay, and how crucial and how do you treat negotiation with operators for career building deals, for example, precisely to take care of this problem with like credit card penetration, credit-based payment, this kind of thing?
So a DCB is one format. E-wallets is another way of paying. Credit card, as you say, is a third way, but it's also the most restrictive in terms of numbers of people. We work with integrators. Also, if it's credit cards and direct purchasing on our platform, we do that direct ourselves. So we bill, collect, return a share if there's a commission arrangement with an MSO. If it's a DCB, obviously the MSO collects the money and then returns our share. Ditto with e-wallets. Again, those are all payment methods on the platform. Ultimately, irrespective of how people pay or what they pay with, they enjoy the content on our platform. So for us, from a business and subscriber and growth perspective, owning that subscriber, having that subscriber on our platform is critical. In some instances, we do short-term syndication deals, but they're always tied to promotional time for us, and a sort of and a rev share arrangement on the app as well. So, for example, we've got a deal in Malaysia at the moment with Astro, where they take some of our book content on Arena 1 and 2. They pay us a license fee. I didn't get that. Could you try again? Sorry, that's Siri. They pay us a license fee. We have promotional time within the broadcast themselves, and we have a revenue share arrangement for sales of the app. So it's multifaceted.
Okay. Ruben, you also have a lot of deals with local telecom operators in the region. And I wanted to know, because you have both the pay TV business and the OTT business, so how do you see the OTT part? as a complementary service
very much
to
so.
grow awareness about the service?
Very much so. I mean, Guillaume, I mean, a lot of focus has been on our linear channel offering over the past few months, all right, where we were sort of like, preoccupied with doing all the affiliate deals and all that. That's been done. Our app was launched in February, all right. I mean, Sport TV Now, okay, it's out there in the market right now. I think in 5 territories right now, okay, out of our 8 territories that we are in. We are in Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, and Hong Kong right now. Looking to get into Thailand, and then of course perhaps Vietnam later on. But right now, I think the focus is very much on building up the app and then having more registered users, not so much reliant on having paid subs at the moment. We are in the process of trying to get user authenticated. That means the affiliates subscribers can then log into Sport TV Now to enjoy the features of Sport TV Now on a free of charge basis, because they already paid for their pay TV subscription with the affiliates. All right. So we are right now in the process. I mean, it's not. I mean, obviously, I mean, we would like it to be the authentication process to be a lot faster. It has not reached that. It hasn't reached all our affiliates right now. Okay, so that's one thing. Sport TV Now, of course, right now is offering a few more interesting features. That is like the outside court coverage for BWF events. All right. It is also providing a MotoGP second screen option. Okay, for MotoGP fans in the region. And for the ongoing Wimbledon right now, okay, we are actually taking all 22 feeds from the All England Lawn Tennis Club. All right, so that means basically every single match that's being played, okay, not just center court, number 1 court, number 2 court. I mean, all the other 15 courts are actually being broadcast and on Sport TV Now right now. So that's a key feature of Sport TV Now. However, when it comes to DCB arrangements, no, we have not gotten there yet. All right, we have had a few discussions, all right, but we have not had one DCB deal done yet right now. Yeah. So still, I mean, we're still growing, all right, but then still learning as well.
Okay. Yeah. So still first awareness, and then the second stage will be about TCB and growing the subscription base, right?
I mean, obviously, we know that's the key really in the market, because when it comes to credit card penetration, that is low across especially big markets like Indonesia and Thailand. All right, so having DCB arrangements is key to actually growing the OTT. Yeah, right now we are just available on Apple Store and Google Play Store. So we recognize that still not enough right now, but we have to work hard to get to the next stage. Yeah.
Harold, when we break down the value of the value chain of OTT, you need first brand awareness, as Rubin just mentioned, and then you need people to drive people to subscribe, and then you need to keep them on the platform. So how can you, with Mocha, to help broadcasters to keep people engaged with these both linear and the digital sides?
I think as Nick and Ruben has also stated out very clearly, as you can see from how they've charted their pathways, sometimes it's also the maturity of the market and the region on the adoption of all this. Do they go with a linear strategy? Do they go with a combined linear digital strategy? And where does highlights and fan engagement and localization of content come in? Whereas for Nick, as you can see, he has his app, he has a very strong direct OTT strategy. It's got his strategy mapped out, and he does various things with Astro, licensing the games. How do we then enable such partners to then, ensure that you keep your fans in your ecosystem? The fans are watching on, the linear TV channels, but they're able to come onto the app to then get the localized content, get the highlights and clips, in the local languages, or even the local programming that they're able to clip and localize through our technology. Same thing for Ruben. A lot of times, the challenges, especially for Southeast Asia, especially a lot of times, I mean, some of the long-time complaints about, there talks about always talks about being extremely broad based, because once they do something, it's English across all markets, and it's they try to have a one version fit all. But as we need to box smarter, even from my previous argument, I think it's about localization. How can you create localized clips? How can you then try to keep the people within your own ecosystem when you're even, while it's not monetized right now, you're trying to grow your fan base within your app by offering this free content? How can you ensure that this is fulfilling their objectives, not beyond the clips and the various channels that you can bring, which of course the technology can help you, but it's also about building the multiple storylines within. Can you build different storylines? Can you build the storylines that appeal to them? Can you bring in the stories from the fans themselves? So technology has enabled this. And as I said, because for even the different players right now with Sport TV, and even with which has both a linear and a OTT offering to really capture their market on their own strategy, or even for 11 that has their own strategy, technology will enable different partners who's on a different maturity scale to really help accelerate them on this journey.
Guy, Ruben mentioned a few features that Sport TV now has, for example, MotoGP second screen. And that's one of the great things about OTT. It's how you can personalize the experience and add features. So I wanted to know, because actually I think you've partnered with 11 in Europe to drive people to subscribe on the platform and provide great experience with web stories, right?
Yeah, you mentioned sort of our role is to use technology to say, hey, how can we take the content that you've paid for and package it up in an exciting way that'll drive people back to that live view and actually, sign up, whether that's free or paying money. And web stories is really an exciting innovation, probably in the last 12 months, where effectively what we're able to do is use the magic of AI and automation and then link that within live Google search. So imagine, last month you've got the Champions League final on, someone Googles Champions League, and when they search that, they're treated with live video, and they're treated with live video in an exciting format. It's not just the video, but particularly for, the younger generations that are used to watching on Instagram, it's got graphics and story and commentators on the screen. It's all delivered automatically. So not only are they engaged, but then there's call to actions to actually drive these viewers back to the rights owner or the OTT partner who's showing that game live and actually sign up, or if they're already subscribed, log in and watch. And we've had unbelievable success for this. You mentioned, with 11, we work in markets like Belgium with the Pro League and Portugal. You look at Champions League locally in Southeast Asia, if anyone Googled the final of Liverpool versus Real Madrid or searched, they would have been seeing a story via BN. And then they saw that story, clicking on the links, it took you to a sign-up page for BN Connect. And I guess the magic here is using video within search. The video is so engaging. The call to action, the click-through rates and then the conversion rates that we're able to achieve through video really blow out of the water anything that you would have seen from a sort of a predominantly text-based basis. So again, it's really our job to say, you've paid for these rights, let's try and use short form and near life clips in a new way to grow your platform and grow signups.
Yeah, nice. And talking about that, Ruben, also to grow engagement with the fans, and so to promote awareness, you also you're posting a lot of digital free content, right? And non-live content.
Yeah. So I think that is really the hook to try to get more registered users right now. Definitely, I think we're trying to get more people to come in and then watch MotoGP highlights, badminton highlights, Wimbledon highlights, and all the short form content and all that. Try to get them to get used to getting into the Sport TV sort of like app environment. All right, because I think over the next few years, all right, what we do see in the market would be that fees will, affiliate fees will continue to decline, and then we sort of, I mean, everyone is doing it, and they have their own app, all right. So it's sort of to future-proof themselves. I mean, we are no different, all right. So obviously, we need to build a fan base, all right, but also at the same time also work closely with our athletes, all right, to make the content a lot more relevant to their paid subscribers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just to jump in, Guillermo, what Ruben
Yeah,
said,
sure.
I think the other interesting thing today for the new partners that are running their own platform is when you talk about short form, how does that actually complement live together? It doesn't have to be one or the other. So we've got lots of partners that when you load up their OTT to watch live, yes, you can watch a live stream of a match, whether it's an F1 race or a football game, but you can integrate near live content. So the clip of the goal that you missed because you tuned in 5 minutes late, hey, actually that's available in the interface. So I can click on that and watch it and then go back to the live action. So sort of the new partners and what they're able to deliver with OTT platforms and how short form can actually be used to create a better experience for live is, I think, as a user, your experience on the couch or wherever you're watching is far, far better than it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, and reaching new generation actually will be key. Zulkifli, how is it for you to reach this new generation as a public service broadcaster? Is it in terms of content to try to get an interest, I don't know, in esports, for example, or to try to diversify the experience you can bring to the fans and to the viewers?
Yeah, since a couple of years ago, we already working close with the social network. We managed to know what the young generation needs to see from our station as a public state broadcaster. Yes, we do the esports, some kind of that, and then we also taking the comments from the young generation through the social networks, such as Instagram, we have an official Instagram for TVRI National, of course. And then from there, we're trying to figure out what is the real need from the young generation, especially in the region in Indonesia, for the sport event. Because, as you know, we are public state broadcaster. We are not taking any benefit a lot because we are using a government fund, but we have a lot of obligation to spread to give the audience, to give the Indonesian what they want to see. So just like, for example, for the Asian Games, for the SEA Games, for the Olympics, Tokyo 2020, for the SEA Games several months ago, and then for the upcoming Asian Games in Hangzhou, we're trying to give and then engage the young generation to make some comment to our social networks, such as Instagram. William.
Yeah.
I think it's sorry, go. Maybe
Yeah,
can I jump in? Yeah, I mean it's very interesting when Zulkifli mentioned about the youth generation, because even from what we see, more and more mobile devices are being connected, and people as the younger generations is going. I mean, I came from a telco broadcaster background myself. We can see are the young people churning? Not exactly. They're just watching on different devices at different time.
Yes.
How do we then best engage them with a storyline and stories that best resonate with them? Do we create a meme or a with subtitles and various graphics that appeals to them on a TikTok or on the mobile device that they're best connected to and being engaged, that will then capture your audience and draw them back into your ecosystem. So a lot of times, because as I said, technology and speed of digital has made people more connected, more devices, and people's lives are never getting easier or less. It's getting more and more busy. So they're just consuming it at different times, not exactly always live, but as I say, with the live rights holders, live is of course the most valued and important. But beyond that, how do you then keep them into your ecosystem and still continue to create the content to enable them to still remain fans and consume even more of it? So I think, yeah, definitely I agree that the younger generation, it's It's really about how you can craft your content in the way that resonates with them as well.
Yeah, agree on that.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I mean, I think what Harold and Zulkifli are identifying is engagement. I mean, obviously, in the case of Indonesia, Zulkifli, he's running a business that thrives on advertising. We're not. I mean, we're reliant on subscription. So if you don't get someone in, someone's not interested in the live event, then no amount of memes is going to get them to buy a subscription from us. So, you know, unless that bit is right, unless the product is authentic, unless people are interested, they won't subscribe. I have every day an offer for content that I must buy because you know it's going to be great, and you know every day I turn it down because I don't think it's going to sell any subscriptions for me. I mean, there is a model out there that says, okay, register, enjoy, and we'll retarget. Absolutely, but still, even in retargeting, you've got to have something that people will actually want to pay for. And getting them to pay for something is tough. It's it is tough, and I don't think they pay for clips. I think they expect clips but whether or not they're actually going to pay for it, I think is something entirely different. I think Guy and I have had many conversations over the last few months. I think he's got a great product, and obviously it worked very well with being on Champions League. I mean, for us, we'd love to look at it, but we can't. We're struggling to identify how important it is for us. Is it more important to use WSC, or are we better off spending more money on Facebook? To generate more subscriptions, cash.
I know the answer to that, by the way, Nick. I'll save it for after the
I know you know what the answer is, and obviously, Guy, I completely agree with you. It's just we can't afford you. But look, I mean, he and I, I think we. The model that 11 has in Europe is different. It's linear driven. It's much closer to what Ruben has, which is linear first with an OTT offer second, and so it works differently. And certainly my colleagues in Europe love the WSC product. Brilliant. I just if I have to go to my board and ask for money to do it, I can't. I'm struggling to say this brings me $1,000, or whatever it is, and we're very focused on, if you spend, what do you get back? And it is, like I say, it is both the beauty and the beast of OTT. It allows you to know exactly, your value for money. That kind of, well, nice to have conversation sort of disappears. And for us, there's a big bifurcation in what we spend. We spend money on things that work, and we don't spend money on, and we won't buy anything that doesn't. We don't have to fill hours. We don't have, I don't know what Ruben's budget looks like, but there'll be a piece in there about needing to fill up some hours, and so. But for us, that's not what we do.
So guys,
the mantra is the same as Nick. I mean, right now, the tier 1 content, yes, they all come with fees. Tier 2 can anything to fill up the hours,
run a repeat. Just run a repeat.
Yes, run a repeat. Really. I mean, now not just ourselves, but the affiliates are doing the same thing as well, right? All our affiliates, I mean, the Astros, True Vision, Singtel, StarHub, that you look at a repeat rate, all right? And it's not just for sports. I think even the in-house entertainment channels, repeat rates are much higher right now, because right now you just buy the stuff that matter, the stuff that are actually the value drivers, the things that actually bring in the subscribers, and the things that don't, all right, is virtually zero value to you already right now. You can't spend much more money, because that, as Nick mentions, okay, that money can be better spent on something else altogether, right? Whether it's to get WSC on board, or on Facebook ads and all that could be better spent rather than on tier 2, tier 3 sort of content that will not make a difference. No one's actually going to watch it and then say that, oh, that's great content, or I'm actually going to subscribe it because it's showing some sport in Europe or South America, which no one actually really bothers about. Yeah.
Are you seeing those guys? Are you seeing anyone willing to offer you that content for free, just for the reach? It could be lower tier content, and they want to partner with you for the reach, so they're able to forego or have a significantly reduced rights fee for the coverage that you're providing. Is that something that you've seen?
Yeah,
Increasingly, yes.
I think Ruben and Nick, they're probably asking them to pay them to put the stuff onto their channels.
Increasingly, I think the ones who are more sensible and the rights holders, all the agencies who are more sensible really start to detect that difference in climate really. All right, and of course they will have to work out a different model with the rights. I mean, the federations that they represent, or the clients that they represent, they have to work out a different model where the exposure is actually critical for them, but not so much the rights fees. So I think that is an easier conversation because then we do have the airtime, okay, to collaborate with them for. But however, once it becomes a sort of a fee sort of a discussion, then it's a lot more difficult really because we still have to justify why do this over this and this and this.
Yeah, but I mean, in answer to your question, Guy, the answer yes, but again, there's still a cost with it. We have to encode it, we have to handle it, we have to manage it. Ideally, we'd want to put it in local language. So something for free doesn't maybe license fee free, but doesn't.
Yeah, there's a production cost as well, of course.
And I think the other thing is, I mean, we're airing some stuff at the moment where we have got it for free. It's not exclusive, but it's also on, it's also available on YouTube. So in that case, what we do is we take it in and we say it's, there's no point in competing with YouTube. It's like, well, this golf is also available on YouTube. We're a sports product. You've come to us for sport. You can have it for free, register with us, and then we retarget. And typically, I'm not using that kind of free content to sell a subscription, not directly. I'm using it to build a registration database, and we have in 6 months have got almost a quarter of a million registrations on our platform. So people have given us their email. We know who they are, and we have an opportunity to market to them. And that's been 6 months of operation, and in reality, I mean, that really kicked off, and this is sort of back to kind of what Ruben and the others were saying, that kicked off with the Asian Champions League in April, where we saw massive uptake in interest, and we drove a lot of our registrations around that, and we backed that up with under 23s that we've had recently, and the AFC Cup that's going on at the moment. Those things are really driving interest for us. Asian football is really, is driving interest for our platform. And then you've got an addressable audience of 250,000, then you can retarget them, and that really helps. So that's how we use free content. So it does have a non-direct value to us.
Guys, I'm afraid we are running out of time, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna let you and give you only 30 seconds of closing statement to explain. I don't know what you expect towards the future, and what trends do you expect to go on the market. So let's start with Ruben. Just 30 seconds, just very quick.
Right. I mean, I've been saying, sports federations, rights holders have to be a lot more creative in their offering right now. I mean, no one's going to be giving away, easy revenues right now. Okay, certainly not, I mean, they have to have a compelling proposition before broadcasters in this region start to take them on and then promote them. Because as Nick mentioned, all right, there is a cost to broadcasting and carrying content as well. So we are more than happy to actually look into exploring different collaborations with especially rights holders and federations, but they have to be reasonable ones.
Yeah. Harold?
I think one of the growing things about getting fans engaged is one of the big things I hear is fans always watch something and then they go onto multiple platforms trying to search for engagements or highlights, whether it's immediately or post that. I think as Ruben has said, people are always involved in top level content, maybe not so much in people just cannot get enough of top level content. How can broadcasters, whether it's OTT players or linear channel operators, how can they box smarter with technology, use technology to their advantage to really monetize their top level rights better so that they draw, instead, maybe as I say, as an analogy, instead in the previous times, when they buy it for $1, they're able to monetize it for $2, but with a little outlay for technology, they're able to monetize it at $2.50 or $3. So it's about also how they can, better react to this new monetization strategy and engagement to really help, some of their business going forward as well.
Okay, thanks. Zulkifli, just in
Yeah, I'm agree with Ruben that federation, the agency, and all the stakeholder that in the sport needs to more creative, because as you know, for me as a public state broadcaster, the license fee is getting higher and higher. We have to stop it before it becoming so wild. I think that's the important thing for the next coming year for the sport event.
Thanks, Guy.
I think we expect, the continued growth in the value of short form and near live content, right? And in two ways. Number one, to drive new people to your live vision as the rights owner, and number two, to actually enhance the experience of that live vision. So continued growth of short form, near live highlights is what we're hoping for.
Thanks. And Nick, you have the closing statement.
Technology is changing faster than attitudes, and attitudes need to catch up, particularly for rights holders. We want, in order for us both to be successful in the long run, rights holders are going to have nowhere to hide, that we're going to know what their properties are worth. And I think for a lot of rights holders, something closer to a partnership arrangement, something closer to a royalty-based arrangement where, back to Ruben, something Ruben said earlier about, how, get behind your own product. Don't tell me it's great. Prove it is great. We'll share risk with you. We'll give you some reward as well. But don't ask us to continue to bear that for you, because that's not working, and they get found out.
Yep.
Well, I hope the message will be heard. Thanks, Guy, for the discussion. And I take the opportunity to thank everyone for this event. So our sponsors, our moderators, our speakers, and our attendees. I hope you will have enjoyed the insightful panels. And I am more than happy to announce you that the second edition of this event will take place in person next year. So guys, I hope I will be able to see you there. So stay tuned. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Take care.